This happened a few weeks ago. I'm Mark, and I'm 32. I thought I could handle a camping trip in the Alaskan wilderness. I needed to find some peace away from the city. I drove out to Wrangell-St, Elias National Park, picked a spot far from anyone else, and set up my tent. It felt peaceful, maybe a little too peaceful. I still can't shake the feeling of dread. The first night was calm. The stars were bright, and the cool breeze felt nice. I settled into my sleeping bag, listening to the sounds around me. Then, just after midnight, I heard it. A heavy thud hit my tent, like something bumping against it. My heart raced. I thought maybe it was just a branch. I tried to convince myself I was fine and soon drifted back to sleep. The next day, I woke up to find my food scattered outside my tent. I thought I must have left something open or dropped something. But I didn't remember doing that. Something felt wrong. It was like I was being watched, but I saw nothing. I shook it off, just my imagination, I told myself. That night, I heard whispers. They hovered in the trees, but I couldn't make out the words. I stepped outside my tent. Holding my flashlight, I swept the beam through the darkness. I scanned the woods, but there was nothing. The whispers stopped, but I could still feel eyes on me. I shivered and quickly went back inside my tent. The following night, I found strange footprints near my camp. They were huge, not human. They circled my tent. Panic twisted my stomach. I wanted to scream, but I couldn't. I brushed my fingers over the prints and stood still. I felt exposed, like whatever made those footprints was lurking close. Then I heard a call in the distance. It wasn't an animal sound I recognized. It made my blood run cold. I froze, not knowing what to do. Whatever it was, I didn't want to be there anymore. I felt a deep urge to pack up and leave, but I forced myself to stay the night. By the time I decided to leave, my hands were shaking as I packed up my gear. I couldn't shake the feeling of being followed. Each noise made me jump. I just wanted to get out of there. As I drove away, I looked back at the trees. They towered silently, with secrets hidden in their shadows. I thought about the campers who might come after me. Would they face what I did? Suddenly, I heard a whisper again. It was faint, but clear. I glanced back, my heart pounding. Nothing. Just trees. I couldn't shake the sensation that something was still out there, watching me as I drove away. The uneasy feeling didn't fade as I drove through the winding roads. I told myself I was safe, but the words of the locals echoed in my mind. Be careful in those woods. Not everything that roams is friendly. I shrugged it off, attributing it to the wild imaginations of people living by the edge of the wilderness. But deep down, I doubted my skepticism. Once I reached the nearest town, I decided to grab a coffee and talk to someone. A local diner felt like the best bet. It was small and rustic, filled with the aroma of fresh coffee and fried eggs. I sat at the counter, hoping to blend into the background. Looking a bit rough there, buddy. Been out hunting bears? The old man next to me chuckled. Camping, I replied, forcing a smile. Just came back from Wrangell-St, Elias. His grin faded, and he turned serious. You seen any signs? Did you hear the calls? What do you mean? The things in those woods. They don't like company. I felt my stomach drop again. What things? Bibbling. Some people call them skinwalkers. The term sent chills down my spine. The stories I'd heard while driving were now manifesting into something real. I quickly shook my head. I didn't see anything. Just unexplained sounds. He tapped the counter with an air of finality. Well, you best stay away next time. If you hear whispers or calls, don't engage. It's often a warning. I nodded, my heart racing. So what had I encountered? And was it really just my imagination playing tricks on me? Keep your eyes open, and don't be out there after dark, he advised, as if he sensed the turmoil inside me. I finished my coffee and left, trying to shake off the unsettling advice. As I walked to my car, I couldn't help but glance back at the tree line bordering the town. There was a layer of mist starting to creep in. It made the woods look even more menacing. A loud thump echoed from behind the diner. Instinctively, I turned, light flooding my vision. I felt my breath quicken. It looked like a large shadow darted between the trees, quickly disappearing from sight. I squinted, searching for clues, but all I found was silence. I climbed into my car, feeling the anxiety claw at me. What if I hadn't been imagining things? What if the whispers had been real? I could feel the tension building in my chest. As I drove away, I couldn't shake the sensation that something was following me again. The trees loomed larger, darker. I abruptly turned onto a small path leading to a scenic overlook. Maybe I could clear my head. When I parked the car and stepped out, the chilling wind slapped against me. I walked closer to the edge, drawn by the expansive view. But my peace shattered when I spotted something uncanny on the rocky outcrop below. When I saw it, a massive figure standing still amidst the rocks. It stared back at me, unmoving. Its eyes glinted in the fading light, and I felt the air grow thick around me. Fear coursed through me, and I stumbled back, my heart racing. What had I really unleashed by stepping into those woods? I knew I had to get back to town and warn others. But first, I had to escape whatever was watching me from the shadows. I took a deep breath, trying to steady my shaky hands. I made my way back to the car, keeping my eyes glued to the rocky outcrop. The figure hadn't moved. It was just there, watchful, waiting. I slammed the car door shut and started the engine, my heart pounding as I pulled away from the edge. The tight road twisted sharply, making each turn feel like the woods were closing in. I glanced in the rearview mirror more than once, half expecting to see that shadowy figure following me. My mind raced through every chilling story I had heard. Were skinwalkers real? Did I really want to find out? In town, the diner loomed ahead, inviting yet ominous. I parked outside, grabbed my phone, and walked back in. The bell above the door jingled, bringing attention to my frantic state. A few heads turned, but the old man from earlier kept his eyes focused on the newspaper in front of him. "Good to see you back," he said without looking up. "I saw something out there," I blurted out, feeling the weight of his earlier words. A figure. It was big, and it was watching me. He looked up, his eyes sharp and serious now. "You sure it wasn't just your mind playing tricks?" "No. It felt real. It was too big and alive." I leaned closer, lowering my voice. "What do I do? What if it follows me? What if it's already here?" He leaned back in his chair, studying me. "Listen, if it was watching you, it's taken an interest. It might not be friendly. You need to remember the stories. Sometimes, showing fear can provoke them. You must seem calm." "Calm?" I laughed nervously. "I can barely breathe." "Then you best learn quick. Do you have a way to protect yourself?" I shrugged. I hadn't thought about that. "I suppose I could grab something from my car." He shook his head. "You might not have time. If there is something in those woods, it won't wait." Just then, the power flickered, and the diner plunged into darkness. Murmurs erupted around me, and I felt a ball of ice form in my stomach. A low howl echoed from outside, sending shivers down my spine. The old man's eyes widened. "Everyone stay calm," he ordered, though his voice wavered slightly. "It's probably just a storm. But keep the lights on your phones ready." I fumbled for my phone, its screen illuminating my shaking hands. The howl pierced the night again, closer this time. Panic rose amongst the patrons, and I felt trapped, cornered. The shadows seemed to stretch, creeping in closer. Then I heard it, a soft whisper, drifting through the air. It was barely audible, but unmistakable. "Come!" I froze. My heart raced, and for a split second, I was paralyzed. What did it mean? Was this a dare, a beckoning? Suddenly, the lights flickered back on, but they felt dull and unsteady. I turned to the old man, panic reflected in my eyes. "Was that?" He nodded solemnly, already rising from his seat. "We have to get out of here. Now." I followed him outside, a knot of dread tightening in my throat. As we stepped into the night, I sensed it again, the presence behind me, lurking in the shadows. It was very much real, and I was right in its sights. The night was far from over. The old man led the way, his boots crunching on the gravel. The hairs on the back of my neck stood up as I glanced back at the diner. The soft glow from the windows felt hollow now, a flickering reminder of the danger we were escaping. "Where do we go?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. "To the truck." "We can't stay here," he replied, urgency in his tone. "Just keep moving." I quickened my pace, my heart racing with every step. We rounded the corner, and I caught sight of his rusted pickup parked at the edge of the lot. It felt like a sanctuary. But just as we reached the truck, the howl sounded again. This time, it was close. Very close. I stopped short, glancing towards the tree line. Dark shapes shifted among the shadows. He turned to me, his face pale. "Get in. Now." Before I could respond, the truck door swung open, and I climbed inside. I fumbled with the seatbelt, my hands trembling. He jumped in beside me and slammed the door shut, locking us inside. "What was that?" I gasped, still fixated on the trees. "Do you think it's—" "It's what you saw earlier," he said, his voice firm. "It's come for you." "Why? What does it want?" My mind raced with questions. He exhaled slowly, staring out the window into the darkness. "Sometimes they're seeking a connection. Sometimes they want something from us, fear, attention, or even more." That last word lingered in the air like a bad omen. I felt my pulse quicken. Suddenly, a loud thud reverberated against the truck's side. I jumped, my breath hitching in my throat. "What was that?" "Stay calm." He pulled out a flashlight from the glove compartment. "We need to see what we're dealing with." I edged closer to the window, peering into the blackness beyond the glass. The beam from his flashlight sliced through the night, illuminating the base of the trees. For a moment, I thought I saw something big and dark, moving against the bark. My heart stopped. Then I saw it again. A huge silhouette shifted, and I was certain I could make out eyes reflecting the light, a piercing, unnatural glow. "Turn it off!" I screamed, not caring about sounding scared. "It can see us." "Too late now." He pointed the light directly at the creature. "We need to know." The eyes narrowed, and the silhouette shifted forward, revealing powerful limbs. My breath caught in my throat. It was enormous. With a sudden flash of movement, the creature lunged toward the truck. Dread consumed me, I braced for impact. Then everything went dark again. The headlights flickered out, and the truck's engine sputtered. Panic darted through my chest. "Stay down," the old man whispered sharply. But I could barely hear him over the wild pounding of my heartbeat. As the shadows surrounded us, the last thing I heard was the whisper again, beckoning me deeper into the night. And that was when I understood, the night had just begun to reveal its true horrors. I blinked, struggling to adjust to the sudden darkness inside the cab. Fear coiled tightly in my stomach. The silence felt oppressive, like a heavy blanket pressed down over me. I could still hear the echo of the creature's movement outside, something massive scraping against the truck's frame. "Is it gone?" I whispered, hoping desperately for an answer, though I knew better than to believe it. "No," he said firmly, not taking his eyes off the window. "And it's looking for you." My heart dropped. "What do you mean?" The old man took a deep breath, his eyes darting around. "That's how it works. It's drawn to fear. The more afraid you are, the stronger its hold becomes." I wanted to ask more, to unravel the mystery he spoke of, but dread pinched my throat. I could barely process what was happening. I was a sitting target in this rusted truck, parked like a bullseye beneath the looming trees. Without thinking, I reached for the door handle, but he grabbed my wrist. "What are you doing?" His grip was surprisingly strong for his age. "I have to get out of here." No," he urged. "Trust me. We have to stay put for now." Just then, a loud crash broke the stillness. A branch snapped under the weight of something large making its way through the underbrush. I pressed my forehead against the window, straining to see, but only discerned movement in the shadows. "What do we do?" I asked, panic edging into my voice. "We wait and listen," he said, his voice low and steady. "It's all about knowing when to move." Moments felt like hours as the sound swirled around us. Was that a growl? A shuffle of claws? Each noise was another nail in my coffin of fear. Part of me wanted to scream, to lash out against the uncertainty closing in, but the old man's presence grounded me in a strange way. After what felt like an eternity, I saw it again. The piercing eyes glowed faintly, closer than before. They searched the truck, unrelenting. "What is it waiting for?" I breathed. "Waiting for you," he replied, his voice grave. "It knows you can sense it. You've shown it your fear." His words sank in, twisting my stomach into knots. I realized then that the beast outside wasn't just hunting me, it was using my fear as a guide. I turned to the old man, desperation clawing at my voice. "What do I do? How do I make it go away?" He leaned closer, his face serious. "You have to confront it. Do not show fear. It's a predator, remember that. Use the light." Just as he finished, the flashlight flickered to life in his hands. My heart raced, torn between wanting to help and the instinct to hide. "Shine it in its eyes," he ordered. "Only then will it back off." I hesitated. The thought of facing that darkness sent shivers down my spine. But deep down, I knew it was my only chance to regain some control. "Okay," I nodded, forcing the words out. My fingers trembled as I took the flashlight, the heavy weight of the moment resting on my shoulders. And that's when I saw it again, larger, closer, its breath fogging the glass. It sensed my resolve. I swallowed hard, heart pounding as I lifted the flashlight. The beam pierced the darkness like a knife, revealing a sprawling shadow outside the window. For a brief moment, the creature hesitated, those glowing eyes locking onto mine. My breath caught. This was it. "It's now or never," the old man whispered. I clicked the flashlight on. The beam flickered but steadied just in time to catch the creature in its gaze. It was like a twisted silhouette, all jagged edges and unnatural angles, lurking just beyond the glass. And then, as if enraged, it sprang forward. "Hold it steady." The old man barked, his voice sharp. I shook with fear but forced my hands to remain steady. The creature lunged, crashing against the side of the truck, its breath fogging the glass again. I screamed but the sound came out muffled, partly swallowed by the deep rumble of its growl. The flashlight flickered again. I felt a pang of panic as the light risked fading, a common omen of failure in horror stories. I squeezed the switch tighter, pushing my fears aside. The light flared brighter, illuminating the creature's gnashing teeth. "Keep it in the light. It can't handle it." I focused the beam directly on its eyes, which flared in retaliation, and for a moment, it hesitated, confused. My heart raced, battling the terror coursing through me. I had to keep this up, had to show it I wouldn't cower. But as I held my ground, I noticed something. The creature seemed to flicker in and out, as if the light itself was weakening it. I glanced at the old man. Why is it? It feeds on fear, remember? It's drawing strength from your doubts, he said quickly. You need to believe you can scare it away. I inhaled deeply, forcing myself to drown out the panic. This was a fight one I might win. I shifted the flashlight, hitting the creature's chest and seeing the shadow flicker again. It snarled, the sound sending a jolt of ice through me, but I held my breath and kept my focus. Suddenly, the old man jerked back, eyes wide. Look out! Before I could react, something crashed against the other side of the cab. An adrenaline-fueled rush surged through me, driving my fear into a corner. My instincts kicked in. I quickly turned the beam toward where the noise had come from, but instead of just the creature, I saw a second form lurking in the shadows, this one even larger, with long claws dragging against the side of the truck. Panic flooded my veins again. There's another one. Shine the light. He yelled. You can do this. I felt my resolve wavering as both creatures hovered just out of reach. The light flickered again, and I realized I had to act fast. I couldn't let them take control. I aimed the flashlight at their eyes, back and forth between the pair, willing the light to stay bright. Yet, as I concentrated, I noticed something strange, a pattern in their movements, like they were coordinating their attack. That realization hit me hard. They were hunting together. Then everything went dark. The flashlight sparked and died, plunging us into complete shadow. My breath hitched, fear cresting anew as I was once again a target in the night. Now what? I gasped, panic clawing at my throat. I could hear low growls surrounding us. And just then, the figure on the passenger side clawed at the window, its eyes glowing. The old man looked at me, desperation in his gaze. We need to move. As I fumbled for the door, I realized that this fight wasn't over. The darkness pressed close, and in that moment, I understood I had to confront my deepest fears if I was ever going to escape. Would I find the courage to face them, or would the night swallow me whole? The silence was thick, almost suffocating. I felt the cold metal of the truck's door handle beneath my fingers, but fear rooted me in place. What if they were waiting for me to make a move? What if the moment I opened that door, they charged in? Now, the old man urged, his voice breaking through the fog of my thoughts. I gripped the handle, heart hammering, and yanked the door open. Darkness instantly enveloped me. I stumbled out of the truck, feeling the ground shift beneath me, but I couldn't stop. I had to run. I sprinted into the trees, guided only by instinct. The underbrush rustled around me as I ducked between the trunks, each step feeling like a gamble. Would they follow? A snarling roar erupted behind me, and adrenaline surged. A flash of light, someone had switched on another flashlight, cutting through the darkness near the truck. I didn't look back. I pushed harder, branches slapping against my arms as I fought through the tangled maze of the forest. Then I heard a chilling howling from two directions. They were splitting up, surrounding me. A wave of dread washed over me. I couldn't let them trap me. I spotted a clearing ahead. My feet pounded against the rooted earth as I raced toward it, desperate for an escape. I burst out into the open and skidded to a halt, nearly losing my balance. The moonlit clearing felt alien. It was a vast expanse where shadows danced, revealing echoes of twisted trees. I turned in a circle, breathless, and the realization hit me hard. I was completely exposed. A growl rumbled from behind me. I spun around, flashlight beams slicing through the trees, but the creatures were now silhouettes against the brightness. I could finally see them clearly, a grotesque pair, their forms shifting, muscles rippling beneath their fur. They were almost human-like, but something vital was lost. They were predators, and I was prey. "Focus," yelled the old man from somewhere in the distance. "Find the light. Find the light." My mind dredged up the thought of what the old man had said about fear. I had to conjure strength from someplace deep within me. My flashlight was dead, but I had other tricks. I remembered the lighter in my pocket. I fumbled around, my fingers finding it in the dark. I flicked it open and sparked a flame. The sudden light illuminated my surroundings just enough to give me a moment's clarity. "No!" One of the creatures screeched, recoiling from the flame as if it burned hot enough to pierce their skin. I held it out, realizing I had something they feared. Then I heard a rustling. I looked to my side and froze as another shadow moved closer, a third creature creeping up behind the trees. This one was bigger than the others, its eyes gleaming with a malevolent hunger. Panic surged anew as I understood that it didn't matter how far I ran, they were closing in. As the flame flickered, I felt my conviction waver. Was this all I had? This tiny spark against the dark? I fought against the creeping doubt. I had to believe. "Show them." The old man's voice echoed again, filled with urgency. In that moment, I made a choice. I would face them. With my heart pounding louder than fear, I leaned into the flames, shouting, "Back off. I'm not afraid of you." The creatures paused, a moment of hesitation washing over them. Just as I thought I might have a chance, the third, larger creature lunged forward, snapping its jaws at the flame. "Run," the old man shouted, but I couldn't move. The lighter flickered one last time, and just as darkness threatened to reclaim me, I heard a howl echo through the night. That's when I saw it, a glimmer of hope in the shape of a distant flashlight beam slicing through the trees. But it was coming from the opposite direction. I had to decide fast. Would I stay and confront the threat before me, or would I flee toward that fragile beam of safety? As I hesitated, the creatures advanced again. I could feel the weight of my fear pressing down. In this moment, I'd have to choose, run towards the unknown or stand my ground against the darkness. I had a split second to make my decision. My instinct screamed at me to run, to escape into the uncertain safety of the flashlight beam. I couldn't afford to let these things pounce on me, especially with that larger creature looming behind them, ready to strike. "Run." The old man's voice pierced through my thoughts again. And just like that, I turned on my heel, sprinting toward the light. The earth shifted beneath my feet, and branches clawed at my arms as I tore through the trees, bounding toward whatever lay ahead. The howls grew faint, but not enough to let me relax. I didn't dare look back, knowing they could be right behind me. Then, as I pushed through the last tangle of underbrush, I broke into another clearing. The light swelled, and I squinted against the brightness. But my heart sank as I registered the source of the beam. It was someone standing there holding a flashlight, but they were not alone. I froze, muscles tensing as I watched a figure emerge from the trees, followed by a few more shadowy shapes. They were dressed in heavy jackets, and they didn't look friendly. "Who are you?" I shouted, hoping my voice didn't quaver. They didn't respond immediately, just stared at me with wide eyes filled with suspicion. Then, out of the darkness just behind me, I heard the low growls again. The figures snapped to attention, lights flickering toward the noise. "Get behind us!" one of them shouted. They moved to form a barrier between me and the encroaching threat. I didn't have a choice. I slipped behind them, heart racing, once again feeling the weight of being trapped. Every sound in the woods felt amplified. The creatures were close, and I couldn't stop the tremor in my hands as I watched the flashlight beams dart into the shadows surrounding us. "What the hell is happening?" one of the newcomers barked, his voice tense. I could see he wanted answers, and so did I. "What's out there?" "I don't know." I gasped, my mind racing over the events that had led me to this moment. They're not just animals. They're dangerous. One of them, a woman with wild hair and frantic eyes, stepped closer to me. We heard howling. We thought it was wolves, she said, attempting to catch my gaze. We need to get out of here. But as the growls intensified, I felt a chill slip down my spine. The larger creature emerged from the tree-line, its eyes glinting like sharp knives in the light. The group's resolve started to crack. The sense of unity, of safety, was draining away. Back up. One of them shouted again, and I could see the edges of fear in his eyes. Suddenly, I wasn't just a person running from the creatures. I felt like I was leading them right to more victims. Yet, something clicked in my mind, the old man's voice echoing in my head, "Find the light." The flashlight beams were flickering against the woods, illuminating something shiny, a metallic object half buried in the dirt. Without thinking, I shot forward, ignoring the danger, and knelt down to grab it. My hands wrapped around the handle of a hunting knife, buried in the dirt. I felt a surge of determination. It wasn't just a light I had to wield. I had to confront the threat. As I turned back to the group, holding the knife tightly, I saw the realization dawn on them. "What are you doing?" the woman asked, her voice trembling. "We can fight them," I said, my heart racing. "We don't have to hide." Just then, a feral snarl erupted from the shadows, snuffing out any lingering hope. "Get ready!" I shouted. But what I really felt was the weight of uncertainty closing in. Everything hinged on what would happen next. The snarl echoed through the clearing, cutting through the quiet like a knife. I gripped the knife tighter, feeling its cold handle against my palm. A mixture of fear and adrenaline surged within me. I had to focus. "Form a line," the burly man shouted, squaring off toward the darkness. The group shifted, muscles taut, flashlight beams aimed where the growls had come from, illuminating the trees but revealing nothing beyond the flickering shadows. "Do you see anything?" the wild-haired woman asked, her voice trembling. Her hands shook, and I could see the glimpse of fear reflected in her eyes. "No. But I can feel it," he replied, glancing over his shoulder at me. "What's your name?" "Amelia," I managed to say, barely able to keep my voice steady. "Amelia, you stay close. We'll protect you," he asserted, but his eyes told a different story. I was as much a liability as I was a fighter. The others nodded tentatively, and I could tell they were depending on me to keep my wits about me. The growling intensified, circling us like vultures waiting for a moment of weakness. The creature on the edge of the tree-line paced back and forth, its silhouette almost monstrous against the fractured light. My heart raced as I tried to keep track of its movements, but every time I met its gaze, an unsettling chill washed over me. "Listen," one of the women whispered, holding her breath. The growling had changed, a deep rumble that sounded almost guttural. It sent waves of icy dread through me. Had they rehearsed this? Were they used to it? Was this normal for them? Then came the snapping of twigs, loud and sudden. The creature broke through the tree-line, lunging into the half-light. It was large, much larger than I had anticipated. It had a crooked back, with matted fur that thickened as it moved. The moonlight caught its eyes, twin orbs of luminous yellow that bored into our souls. "Fall back!" the burly man yelled, his voice barked out like a command. "Now!" But I didn't want to retreat. Something inside me ignited at the sight of that beast. I took a step forward, knife raised, as if it could somehow protect me from the nightmare unfolding before us. "What are you doing?" the woman shouted, panic dripping from her voice. "Fighting," I replied, my own fear fueling my resolve. I had the blade, and I couldn't let it go to waste. The growling creature paused, as if weighing the threat I presented. Its lips curled back, revealing a mouth full of teeth that glistened with drool. Then, without warning, it lunged towards us. I saw adrenaline-powered movement from the group as they tried to stand their ground. This was it. My heart was racing, and I had a choice to make. "Get ready!" I shouted back over the chaos, raising the knife higher. Adrenaline surged, each heartbeat a reminder that I could fight back. But just then, something unexpected happened. A loud whistle pierced the air, slicing through the tension like a hot knife through butter. The creature stopped mid-pounce, its lips curling back into a low growl as it turned, confused. In that second of uncertainty, I felt the air shift, like a current moving through the clearing. "Now!" The burly man shouted again, and I followed his lead. We had a small window. But then my mind twitched, connecting dots too quickly. Where had that whistle come from? Before I could dwell on it further, the creature darted away into the trees, its form disappearing as quickly as it had appeared. For a moment, we could only hear our heavy breathing. "Did we get it?" someone asked, their voice trembling. I lowered the knife, feeling an unsettling mixture of relief and confusion. But my heart raced at the new question those shadows had left in my mind: who else was out there with us? And that whistle, it had felt oddly deliberate. Before I could voice my thoughts, the ground shifted ominously beneath me, and I stumbled, a strange rumbling emerging from deep within the woods. Something was coming back. I looked up, and I wasn't prepared for what I saw next. The shadows grew thicker as movement surged through the trees. A series of low growls filled the air, reverberating through the clearing like distant thunder. My heart hammered in my chest as panic clawed at my throat. The group looked around, uncertainty spreading amongst them like wildfire. "Stay close!" the burly man shouted, his voice wavering slightly. But I could see the fear mixing with determination in their eyes. They were scared, and rightly so. This was not just a fight, this was survival. Then, as if answering the call of the growls, a second creature crashed into view, eyes glinting like daggers in the half-light, this one even larger than the first. It emerged from behind the skeletal branches, muscles rippling beneath its slick coat, valid and ready for a hunt. "Fall back. We need a plan." I spat urgently, glancing back at the gathering shadows. But as I turned, I realized one thing: the creatures were not just stalking us, they were strategizing. With a sudden lunging howl, more beasts erupted from the darkness. I counted at least 3 more, circling us like wolves assessing their prey. The flashlight beams flickered, illuminating an array of nightmarish shapes with jagged teeth and primal eyes. Fear flooded my veins again, threatening to swallow me whole. The burly man shouted something, his voice cut through the tension, but I barely processed it. My instincts took over. The only option was to fight back. I gripped the knife tightly, my breath quickening as I stepped forward, feeling the warmth of resolve wash over me. "No. We fight together. We don't let them pick us off." The words tumbled out before I realized their urgency, before the creeping remorse that I might be leading everyone to their doom could settle in. But then the whistle sounded again, sharp and piercing, slicing through the chaos. The creatures flinched, seemingly startled, turning their gazes toward the source. They hesitated, throwing uncertainty into their swift, savage demeanor. "Rally up!" I shouted, not knowing if my voice would reach them. The group promptly formed a loose circle, streetlights flickering sporadically against our backs, creating a fragile barricade. "Everyone stay focused," the wild-haired woman said, her eyes darting about. "If they're afraid of the light, we need to use it." And just like that, she maneuvered into the center alongside me, knife at the ready. I could sense the shift in energy, a collective feeling of defiance. The beasts regained their composure, weaving through the edges of the clearing, searching for openings. I locked eyes with the burly man again, the resolve in his gaze pushed me to take charge of my fear. Who was I to run away when I had the power to confront these nightmares? When the lead creature lunged forward, the group raised their flashlights in unison, beams cutting through the murky shadows. The creature shrieked, recoiling from the light. But as we held our ground, the third whistle pierced the air once more. It cut through the tension, and each beast momentarily flinched, flickering like shadows disturbed by a fresh wind. Listen. Use your voices. The words came from me, an unexpected revelation. They're responding to something. Shout. Stand firm. The burly man urged, his voice solidifying the command. A spine-tingling howl vibrated from the woods, and we all echoed it back, creating a cacophony fueled by survival instincts. The creatures turned, startled and confused by the intensity we had erupted. In that moment of united defiance, their hesitance morphed into full-blown chaos. With panic-driven energy, they darted back into the shadows, retreating from the illuminated clearing they had once encircled. But just as victory washed over us a glimmer of hope amidst the despair, I was hit with an unsettling realization. Their retreat didn't feel like defeat. It felt strategic, like they were biding their time. Heads up. Someone shouted from my right as I felt a shudder beneath my feet. The ground trembled again, more sinister than before, and another growl echoed from behind. I turned, and when I saw it. A figure larger, cloaked in the midnight black, loomed just beyond the edge of the clearing. Its silhouette was warped, almost a distortion of reality. The air crackled with ominous energy, and I couldn't shake the feeling that this creature was different. It wasn't just a beast, it was a harbinger. Run! Screamed the wild-haired woman, grabbing my arm, but my feet felt glued to the ground. I was lost in the moment, captivated by the creature's twisted form. Wait! I called out, my voice barely rising above the chaos. I could feel life pulling me in directions I didn't wish to go. The others were scrambling to escape, but something told me I needed to hold my ground. I wasn't just facing creatures, I was confronting the unknown. The figure at the edge of the clearing stepped forward with purpose, its piercing stare locking onto me. As the light flickered against it, I felt a pull, one that twisted at my core and hinted at something deeper within. And then I understood, the creature wasn't here for feasting. It was searching for something or someone. The fog settled into my thoughts while understanding flickered through my mind. Amelia! The burly man yelled, panic lacing his voice. I snapped back, jolted from the trance. We had to move. The woods behind the figures were alive with convulsing shadows filled with shapes that threatened to swallow us whole. In that moment, the weight of my decisions crashed over me. It wasn't over yet. I could still feel eyes on me, lurking in the periphery, watching with an unsettling hunger. As the first of the creatures broke free from the woods once again, I instinctively took a step back, my hands trembling around the hunting knife. Yet, amidst the storm of chaos, an unfamiliar strength surged within me. I clenched my teeth, allowing fear to morph into resolve. They may hunt under the cloak of darkness, but I had the fire of determination on my side. Together. We stand together and fight. I shouted, rallying the group with newfound grit. And just maybe, if we faced the darkness together, we could push back against whatever lay beneath the shadows, be it supernatural or simply our own fears. The night was far from over, but I wasn't backing down without a fight. And in that defining moment, as the creatures closed in and whispers filled the cold night air, I knew both hopelessness and hope would collide, leaving me to decide which one would carry me forward.